Hey everybody, I just want to make a quick video about how I was able to fix a problem that I was having with um, random shutdowns in ProPresenter 7, and support was able to walk me through some of this, but figured I could give you just kind of a quick walkthrough of what worked for me. And I was having periodic shutdowns with no real rhyme or reason. But as you can see in this screen share or this screen capture, I have a couple of updates that need to take place, and that was also where I was on the computer that was in question. So to begin to remedy those issues, I started with the ProPresenter updates, um, and they didn't fix it. I was still experiencing them. Then I went through some operating system updates to make sure that everything was um, up to as current as possible, and it still wasn't happening. In fact, it led me to an issue, much like you can see right here. When I clicked on slides, nothing was produced in my screen output. I was able to edit and work on slides the way that I wanted to, change my playlist, all that sort of stuff, but nothing was triggered. So there's a couple things that they walked me through to help me troubleshoot what the issue is. And before you would go on, there's no way I can guarantee that this will fix your issue, but it was an interesting process and it might help you narrow down what the problem actually is. Before you go on, go up to your preferences, start in screens. And if you open up the screen configuration, take a screenshot of your current configuration. If you want to, you can go in and take a screenshot of the different outputs that are in each one of those so that you have those on record. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you go up to screens and edit looks, I went through and I took screenshots of each one of my independent looks and then what was applied to each of my outputs. That's because later I had to remake these, and I didn't want to do it from memory. I wanted to do it knowing that I was going to do it correctly. So I went through and I took screenshots of all these and made these up later when I needed to. The first thing that ProPresenter instructed me to do was to add a new user to my Mac and to test ProPresenter to see if it worked on there. If you're on a Mac, it's super quick and easy. If I can locate it, click on users and groups, then you go ahead and add a new user, log in as that user, open up ProPresenter. Everything should work fine. So in my case, that meant that there was some problems in some configuration files on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and close ProPresenter here quick and show you a little bit of what that looks like. They told me to find my ProPresenter configuration folder, and by default that's sent to your documents folder unless you've moved it. And so I'm going to just kind of show you what they had me do. First thing they told me to do was to rename that home folder. I'm going to rename that just to old. So that's ProPresenter old. Now when I open ProPresenter here, you'll see a new ProPresenter folder populate in my documents folder there. And that's what's supposed to happen. ProPresenter will auto-populate that the first time you download it. So you can see that as I open up ProPresenter, obviously my screen configuration is no longer saved, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. My library is empty here. I have no items, no documents, no nothing. But what I want to show you here is now that that's kind of cleared, if I go ahead and add a presentation, we're going to call this just a test presentation. I'm going to go ahead and edit this, and this is going to be test 1, and then I'll add another slide so we can just see a change here. Go back to my show, and if you're looking here in my output, that goes ahead and functions the way that it should. So what that tells me is that there's an issue in my configuration file that's causing those slides to act funny or to shut down or whatever your issue may be. Hopefully that applies. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of ProPresenter here, and this is what Renewed Vision walked me through. So we have our old ProPresenter file, and essentially we're going to use that almost as a backup and a way to test. So I'm going to keep my old ProPresenter file or folder open up here. I'm going to open up my new one right here. And so what they had me do is they had me go through and copy. They had me go through folder by folder. So what they would have me do is delete, say, this themes folder, send that to my trash. Then go back to the old ProPresenter file or folder, copy that themes folder, and paste it back in my new ProPresenter folder. Once I did that, then I would come back over to ProPresenter, open it back up, and test my configuration to see if things were working the way that they should be or the way that they shouldn't be. And basically, what you're going to do is you're going to do that for each of these respective folders outside of the downloads and libraries, I believe. Or excuse me, the downloads and the media, because those can just be resynced later depending on how you have them set. So what I did is I went folder by folder and I synced my new ProPresenter folder here with the folders from my old ProPresenter folder. As I went, everything worked fine, everything functioned fine until I got to this configuration tab. When I dropped the configuration folder into the new ProPresenter folder, my ProPresenter reverted back to the way that it had been when it was acting glitchy. It was shutting down, it was locking up. I couldn't select, I couldn't change slides, those sort of things. So their next suggestion was to do what I just did, but with each and every one of these individual files. So I worked my way through. I deleted the calendar, which it's deleted in there right now for some reason. I deleted the calendar from the new file folder and copied it from the old one, tested it, and went all the way through. And for me, what my issue was this workspace file. When I copied the old workspace file into my new ProPresenter folder, everything went back to the way it was. Nothing worked properly. So I knew that that was what the issue was. And so I deleted that workspace file from my new ProPresenter folder and then went back in and reset up my screens, reset up my looks according to the screenshots that I took earlier. And once I did that, ProPresenter was functioning the way that it was supposed to. Um, Everything was working the way that it was supposed to. So I would go back into my screens, edit my looks, and then I could add them, rename them, select what I wanted displayed according to the screenshots that I already had. Now for me, the problems didn't stop there. I still had some output issues, or specifically some issues in adding screens, but that was because I'm running a Blackmagic Ultra Studio HD Mini as a screen. So out of ProPresenter, it goes into the Mini, and that allows me to do my key and fill for my lower thirds. And I had to update the software on that, as well as the desktop video software from Blackmagic, because my operating system on my Mac was then going to be at Monterey level. So once that was updated and I had everything talking correctly, I was able to go in and add the device as I normally would as a display and get it to function properly. The only other issue that I ran into personally is my stage display was driven by a USB to HDMI converter, and that converter was not compatible. The driver was giving me issues as well through Monterey. That's a J5 Create, a cheap little driver, a converter, which I'm working on getting remedied right now. But that helped me with my shutdown problems. That helped me with my inability to select those slides and actually have them fire appropriately. So hopefully that at least gives you something to work from, a way to kind of pinpoint where the issue actually is. And then at least at that point, you could reach out to support and say, hey, it's in my workspace file. Can you help me figure out how to take care of that? So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to help. I can't answer them all, obviously, but I hope that is beneficial to you.